The room buzzed with the usual hum of a corporate party: laughter, clinking glasses, and shallow conversations wrapped in false smiles. My wife, Lauren, was stunning in her midnight blue dress, moving through the crowd like she belonged to another world. A world I had worked tirelessly to support her in reaching. Yet, the look in her eyes tonight wasn't for me. She stayed close to him, Richard Townsend, her boss. A man with deep pockets, a powerful presence, and an ego that could rival the tallest skyscraper in the city. His hand rested too often on her back, his laughter too familiar. I had noticed their shared glances for weeks, but tonight confirmed my worst fears. I stood at the bar nursing a whiskey, my knuckles white against the glass. I'd played the role of the supportive husband for years, sacrificing my dreams to fund hers. But tonight, something snapped. Richard's eyes met mine across the room, and he smirked. He whispered something to Lauren, and she hesitated before following him to a quieter corner. My stomach churned, but I followed at a distance, keeping out of sight. They didn't notice me, too engrossed in their hushed conversation. "Richard, please," Lauren said, her voice low but firm. "You knew the terms, Lauren." "You've played your part well," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "But it's time your husband knows his place." Lauren glanced around nervously. "He doesn't need to be involved." "Oh, but he does." Richard turned abruptly, his gaze locking onto me. "Mr. Daniels. Glad you could join us." My heart pounded as I stepped forward, masking my rage with a calm facade. "Richard." "Lauren." "I think it's time we had a little chat," Richard said, his tone mockingly polite. "You see, your lovely wife has been quite indispensable to me. But as of now, she's mine to control. And you, well, you'll continue to support her and your worthless life. Resist, and I'll ensure you're left with nothing." The audacity of his words hit me like a freight train. Lauren avoided my gaze, her face pale. "You think you can dictate my life?" I asked, my voice cold and steady. Richard's smirk widened. "I've already dictated hers. You're just collateral. Accept it, Daniels. It'll be easier for everyone." Something inside me snapped. Years of sacrifices, betrayals, and humiliation coalesced into a singular, focused rage. I took a step closer, my voice lowering to a near growl. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." Richard laughed, dismissive. "Oh, spare me the theatrics. You're nothing but a..." He didn't finish. I grabbed him by the lapels and slammed him against the wall, his expensive drink spilling onto the carpet. Gasps erupted from the surrounding guests, but I didn't care. "This was between us, listen closely," I said, my voice deadly quiet. "You don't own me. You don't own her. And if you so much as breathe in our direction again, you'll regret it." Security rushed in, pulling us apart, but the damage was done. Richard's face was a mix of shock and fury. Lauren's eyes brimmed with tears as she called after me, but I walked out without a backward glance. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Richard's threats came swiftly, as expected. My bank accounts were frozen, my reputation tarnished by fabricated scandals. Lauren, caught between us, tried to mediate but was swiftly shut down by Richard's controlling hand. The weight of the situation crushed her, and she started to unravel. Tears became her constant companion, and the guilt in her eyes haunted me. But Richard had underestimated me. I had spent years in the shadows, building connections and collecting secrets. Richard wasn't the only one with power. Through careful planning, I leaked damning evidence of his financial fraud and workplace harassment to the media. His empire crumbled overnight, but it wasn't enough. I needed more. I hired a private investigator who unearthed Richard's darker dealings: bribes, blackmail, and connections to a criminal syndicate. Armed with this, I set a trap. Late one night, I confronted Richard in a deserted parking garage. The shadows played tricks with the dim light, but the fear in his eyes was unmistakable. "What do you want, Daniels?" he sneered, trying to mask his unease. "Justice," I replied, stepping closer. "And this time, you don't get to dictate the terms." Before he could react, I revealed the flash drive containing every incriminating detail of his sordid dealings. His face paled as I tossed it onto the ground at his feet. "You think this scares me?" he spat. I have friends in high places. Not anymore, I said, smirking. I've already sent copies to the authorities and the media. By the time the sun rises, you'll be nothing but a memory. Richard lunged at me in desperation, but I was ready. A swift jab to his stomach doubled him over, and I followed up with a calculated strike to his jaw, sending him sprawling to the ground. This is for every life you ruined, including mine, I said, standing over him. You won't escape this. As the sound of sirens filled the air, I turned and walked away, leaving him to face the consequences of his actions. Lauren came to me, begging for forgiveness. We met in a quiet cafe, a place we used to frequent when our love was still untainted. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hands trembling as she reached for mine. David, she said, her voice breaking. I was blind and foolish. I let ambition cloud my judgment, and I hurt the only man who truly loved me. I looked into her tear-filled eyes, memories of our early years flooding back. The nights we spent dreaming about the future, the quiet mornings wrapped in each other's arms. Despite everything, a part of me still yearned for that connection. Lauren, I said, my voice softening. I loved you more than anything. But trust, once broken, isn't easy to mend. She leaned closer, desperation etched into her features. Let me prove it to you. Let me show you that I can be the woman you fell in love with again. The vulnerability in her voice stirred something in me. Against my better judgment, I nodded. One chance, Lauren. Don't waste it. From that day, we began to rebuild. It wasn't easy. Richard's downfall triggered an avalanche of corporate chaos. Employees loyal to him blamed me for their predicament, and I faced veiled threats in dark parking lots and anonymous emails. Lauren became my anchor, surprising me with her resilience. She resigned from her job, severing all ties with Richard's crumbling empire, and started volunteering at a shelter, rediscovering a purpose beyond ambition. One night, a man confronted me outside my apartment, a blade gleaming in his hand. This is for Townsend, he snarled. The fight was swift and brutal. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as I disarmed him and pinned him to the ground. The police arrived moments later, but the message was clear: Richard's allies were still out there. Lauren insisted we move, and I agreed. We relocated to a small coastal town, far from the city's chaos. There, amidst the sound of crashing waves and the scent of salt in the air, we found peace. Rebuilding our trust was a slow, arduous process. Each shared laugh, each tender moment was a step forward. Revenge wasn't just sweet, it was liberating. But forgiveness gave me something far greater. It gave me a chance to rediscover the love we thought we'd lost. And Richard? He'd learn what it meant to cross the wrong man. Mercilessly.